بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وبارك على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we have reached now our final part of the Kitab al-Sadaq, and essentially the final part as well of the chapters all pertaining to a nikah, the chapters pertaining to nikah. And this chapter or subchapter is the chapter of al-khula, the khula, and this is one of the means of dissolving and ending the marriage process. So, and essentially this chapter almost is a bridge for our next chapter, the next main chapter, which is Kitab al-Talaq, the chapter pertaining to divorce itself. And so this chapter here, the reason why is mentioned within Kitab al-Sadaq, the chapter pertaining to the mahar, the marital dowry, is because in the event of a khula, in the event of the marriage being ended in this regard, then the mahar or some of it is returned. Now, this is what distinguishes the khula from other forms of ending of the marriage, other forms of dissolving of that marital contract. And so this is why it's mentioned in this particular chapter, because it revolves around specifically the mahar, the dowry. And so the author begins by mentioning إذا كانت المرأة مبغضة للرجل وخافت أن لا تقيم حدود الله في طاعته فلها أن تفتدي نفسها منه بما تراضي عليه. And so here the author, he lays out the circumstance in which the khula can occur. And so he mentions if the woman has a dislike for the man, so the wife has dislike for her husband, or even to extend, if we say hatred for her husband, and so thus she fears that she cannot establish the rights of Allah when it comes to obeying Him, then she is able to, ransom herself or give a particular amount in wealth, which they are both pleased with. Which they are both pleased with, they both agree upon. And this is the khula. And this is how the khula occurs, barakallahu fikum, where the woman, she offers a particular amount of her wealth, and by way of that, she frees herself from the marriage, and this thus nullifies the marital contract. And they both have the ability to enter into that agreement. They both are allowed to enter into that agreement. So, for example, the woman, if she wishes to do so, she can enter into that agreement. Whilst the man as well, if he sees fit, he can enter into that agreement likewise. Barakallahu fikum. Now, is that clear? Jayyid. And thereafter, the author goes on to mention, ويستحب أن لا يأخذ منها أكثر مما أعطاها. And it's mustahab, and it's something which is recommended, that he does not take more. Than he initially gave her. So it's referring to, of course, the dowry. If he gave her a particular amount in the dowry, then when this is returned, he should not take more than that he gave. Na'am. So you shouldn't take ziyada. Na'am. And so with that, we understand there has to be a particular amount that they both agree upon, but it shouldn't be something which is more. So if she returns the whole dowry for labats, or if she returns something like a portion of that amount, and they agree on that portion, then there's no harm in that as well. Now, however, this, as mentioned, Sheikh Ivan mentions, it's important to note that this is min bab al-istihbab, something which is recommended, and is not now stated to be an obligation. Now, irrespective. So, for example, if, the man gave the woman the mahar, for ease, we say £1,000, and during that marriage, it comes to an end, and the woman, she seeks the khula', but now in this regard, she's asking for, he's asking for £1,500. What's better now is that he doesn't ask for that which is more. But if he says that I will agree to it, but it has to be this amount, then this is not haram in order to do so. But it's not the best action. Why would you say it's mustahab that he doesn't ask for more? Why would you say it's mustahab? What is the benefit in him not asking for? That's the question. It's not burdensome. That's one thing. Love for your brother that you love for yourself. No, there could be something maybe along those lines as well.
Is it to do with interest?
No. There was interest within we talk about tahrim, something that's haram. No, it's not necessarily interest. No, or it's not interest. Sorry.
Kind of making profit as well.
He is. He is, but it's not the reason. No, he is. It's a dangerous business to get into. But he was to enter that business, but no, that's not the reason. No. Essentially, what is recommended if a person was to end a marriage? What is recommended for them in terms of the usloob, the mannerisms in terms of ending that marriage? To leave on good, upon good. Now, to leave upon good. And so now, if anything contributes towards there being enmity or an increase upon enmity in that regard, then this would increase. This could be an increase in harm going forward. Now, so of course we understand just from the nature of talaq, wal khula, wal fasq al aqd, all these things, meaning from the nature of the ending of a marriage, that it's going to be troublesome. There's going to be trials within it, and within that as well, there may be bad feelings between the parties and between families, and it may even occur that the families are related even in that regard, or they're from the same tribe, or they're from the same town, or whatever the case may be. So now you want to make, with that being the case, and from being almost from the nature of divorce, where hardships come and bad feelings occur, you want to make takhfif of that. You want to lighten that as much as possible. Naam. And so a person asking for more than they were actually originally given is only going to add to the ill feelings that may already occur. Now, so this is why it's meant, but it's not something which is an obligation. But we understand when it comes to legislation, especially in mu'amala, and when we discuss some of the chapters in mu'amala in terms of buying and selling even, there are specific ahkam that you have that are there to protect and to maintain the relationships amongst the Muslims. Now, to safeguard the relationship amongst the Muslims. And this is an example of that. So the man should not ask for more. Now, and so with that as well, it goes on to mention ويجوز الخلع بكل ما يجوز أن يكون صداقة. Now, and so it's permissible that the khula is established with anything that can be used as the sadaq. Anything that can be used as the dowry. So the khula can be given with anything that can be used as a dowry. So then going back to that, what did we say? What did we say are items that can be used for the dowry? Anything that tangible. Now you say tangible. Did you say financial? Valuable. Now, so anything that carries, yani, price essentially. Now, any that carries, as you mentioned, value or price. Now that can be valued and essentially can be traded. Now, essentially can be traded. And so, if this is something which you can use as the mahar, as the dowry, then it can also be used when it comes to paying the amount for the khula. Paying the amount for the khula. What we understand from this as well, barakallahu fikum, is that first and foremost, the first thing we understand from it is that it doesn't have to be the exact thing that was given in the first place. Now, so the man, for example, he gives the woman gold. Now, he gives the woman gold for the khula. And he, for example, he gives her a specific amount in kilograms of gold. It doesn't now mean that whatever's paid back has to be that same amount in gold, or the same weight in gold, the same amount, the same value in gold, or something less in gold. It just has to be something of value. And also, from the conditions, is that as is with the conditions of the dowry, the person has to own it. It's to be in possession of it. So the man now, if he's in possession of this particular commodity, he can give it as a dowry. Now, he can give that commodity as a dowry. Likewise, now, the woman, she has to be in possession of that commodity for her to say that she's going to give it back or she's going to give it to the man for the khula. Now, and it has to be something which is your jewels, something which is permissible to own. Now, it has to be something which is permissible to own. So just as the dowry has to be something which a person is permissible to own and thus permissible for them to trade, likewise, the thaman or the amount for the khula has to be something which is permissible to own and permissible for them to trade. Now, permissible for them to own and permissible for them to trade. Does that make sense, barakallahu feek? Wadih. Jade. So, when it comes to that, we understand that it can be the sadaq as well as the khula, or the thaman for the khula can be yani mal or manfa'a as well. Mal and manfa'a. The mal is referring to what? If we say mal, money, then it means what? We say mal. Does it just mean pounds and dollars and
Gold, silver.
cedis? No.
Gold, silver.
Gold, silver, okay. Anything that you can trade. So would you say dates are mal? You say dates are mal? Yeah, dates are mal. No. Say chest. No, dates can be wealth. Anything that's regarded as wealth. Now, anything that's regarded as wealth that can be traded, this is mal. Now, this is mal. And so this can be used for the mahar, the dowry. Now, for him to. Likewise, as well as mentioned here, Sheikh Fawzan mentions the manfa'a as well. Manfa'a is referring to anything beneficial, like. No, so essentially anything that can bring about some sort of benefit or anything that can bring about some sort of service almost. Could be generally referred to usually as a service. But you're giving something of benefit to an individual. No, so that could be teaching them a skill. Teach them a skill. Or as we know in the narrations, you're teaching Quran. You're teaching them something. So this is a manfa'a. We mentioned this as well, going all the way back when we were discussing, this is just a quick revision. When we were discussing the matter of riba. Naam. We said that riba can be yani addition of a manfa'a as well. So a person, they give something from wealth, but in return, they expect that wealth back and a manfa'a on top. That is the riba. The additional manfa'a on top is riba. Naam. So for example, the person, they lend an individual £1,000, but they say, they stipulate, in return, you're gonna pay me back this £1,000 in 6 months, but during those 6 months, you have to take me to work. Naam. That £1,000, that's the amount that was given, but that additional manfa'a, you have to take me to work, that's the riba. Naam, because it's something of value that is added on top. Does that make sense? So now we understand, and now we've concluded that this is something of value, then we understand that this is also of value in terms of the marital contract or the breakage of the marital contract as well. Now, the marital contract or the breakage of the marital contract. Now, so likewise, now, thereafter it mentions well bin majhul. فلو قلت يعني بالنسبة للخلع يعني اخلعني بما في يدي من الدراهم وما في بيتي من المتاع ففعل صح وله ما فيهما. And so Ibn Qudama mentions something which is important here. He mentions that it's permissible that the khula is done upon something which is majhul. Now, the khula is done upon something which is majhul. It's permissible. Something that's unknown. And he gives the example where if the woman was to say, ولو قالت, if the woman was to say, يعني, free me and give me this khula for whatever's in my hand from dirahim. Whatever I possess in my hand from dirahim, from the money. So whatever's in my hand, I give this to you, then and I get the khula in return. Naam. Or she says, yani, give me the khula for whatever yani, furniture and whatever furnishings I have within my home. If he agrees, then this is a correct khula. Naam, this is a correct khula. Naam. And so the khula is permitted even with a degree of jahala. What is this? What does this differ from though? Question clear? The dowry, now. What else? So the initial dowry, has to be a specified amount.
Oh, any business transaction.
Any transaction. Because from the conditions of a business transaction is that it has to be yani, something which is ma'ruf wal ma'iyyan. When you do a business transaction, it has to be something which is known. So a person cannot now say, I'm going to buy everything in that office for £200. Nah, I doesn't know what's in there. Nah, you see, you get these auctions where they have these blind auctions where they say whatever's in this container or whatever's in this what do they call these? Storage places. Yeah, they say whatever's in here, you buy it. You bid for it, you buy it for whatever amount. Nah, if it's full of feathers, then you've got feathers. If it's full of gold, then you've got the gold. Nah, this is something in terms of the Sharia and the ahkam in terms of buyu is not permissible. In terms of buyu. But as for now, when they are agreeing upon the khula, then the khula, there's no set amount. There's nothing which is set. It's just a case of as long as there's something of value and they agree, then it ends the marriage. Naam, it ends the marriage. This is permissible. Naam. Naam. So نعم وإن خالعها على عبد معين فخرج معيبا فله عرشه ورده وأخذ قيمته. نعم. And so if now the khula was for a particular slave, and as you know with these chapters we always have to end with talking about the slaves. Now, and so if now the particular slave, a specified slave, they say this is this slave, the woman says, I'll give the slave to you if you give me the khula. Now you're now allowed the marriage to come to an end. And then it becomes clear that that slave has a deficiency. Now has a deficiency. Then the man has an option. He may still fulfill that dealing, give her the khula, and still take the slave and keep the slave. Or he may return the slave and take, and now she owes him whatever that is of the value of that particular slave. Naam, in order for that khula to be complete. Naam, and this is how you understand this particular ruling of the khula. Naam. So, likewise as well, if it becomes clear that that slave, for example, was stolen, or that slave in reality was not a slave. Naam, that slave was not a slave, but he was actually free. Then he is permitted to take the value. Now he's permitted to take the value. So what's the difference between the first scenario and the second scenario? The first scenario where it says he can keep the slave, or he can return it. This one it says he just takes the value. Why? No, everyone said the same thing basically. No, is that the slave is not owned? It's first of all, there wasn't a slave in this scenario. It's not owned, or it wasn't theirs in the first place to give and trade. I was stolen, so it cannot now be said that I'll take the choice to keep it. The person will be like, I'm not a slave. What do you mean you're gonna keep me? No, I'm not a slave. So thereafter, Ibn Qudama mentions ويصح الخلع من كل من يصح طلاقه. نعم. And so everything that is permissible, or any scenario where it's permissible to have a talaq, the marital divorce or the divorce, then it's also permissible to do the khula, because the khula is badir al talaq. Now the khula is in place of the talaq. So, meaning that if the person was to do the khula, then it ends the marriage just as the talaq ends the marriage. Naam, just as it ends the marriage. And so, with that being said, there are some shurut, there are some conditions in order for that khula to be fulfilled. From these conditions, based on what we just mentioned, from them is that the khula has to be, both parties have to be in agreement of doing it. And there cannot be any ikrah from one party to the other, or one party cannot be forced. Likewise, both parties have to be aqil. Both parties have to be of sound mind. So the khula is not now permitted, or is not now correct, if one of the parties is understood to be majnoon. Now, if one of the parties is understood to be majnoon, or not of sound mind. Likewise, as well, the khula, there has to be a particular thaman given. This is the difference between the khula and the talaq. Talaq, the woman does not give anything in return in terms of wealth. With the khula, she gives something of wealth. As well as that, there has to be a particular alfaz, wordings used that establish this khula. That he mentions that the man mentions that he give the khula to the wife upon this particular amount, or based on whatever they've mentioned. And the khula generally occurs. So those are essentially the conditions. The khula occurs as mentioned in the beginning by Ibn Qudama, the khula occurs if the woman, first and foremost, she fears that she cannot fulfill the rights of her husband. She fears she cannot fulfill the rights of the zawj. And so that seeks the khula. Second, and so due to that, she wants to free herself from that responsibility found within the marriage. Secondly, is where she has a severe dislike for that husband. And this when they mentioned this, some of the scholars, Ibn Qudama mentioned this. He mentions it, yani, generally speaking. He mentions it generally. Why? Because why mention it in general? It means that dislike for the husband, the wife's dislike for the husband, could be as a cause or as a result of his actions or her actions or none of their actions. It's just general that she has this severe dislike for that husband or hatred for that husband. And of course, that reason number two, if she has that race hatred for the husband, then يعني على الغالب, it will lead to reason number one. Reason number one being she fears she cannot fulfill his rights. She fears she cannot fulfill his rights. And so that dislike that she has for him means that she fears she cannot fulfill his rights. A third reason is that she fears harm from that husband. She fears harm from that husband, whether that be physical harm or other than that. And by way of that, she feels that there's no other way that she can free herself from that marriage except for the khula. And so these are some of the reasons that we understand that are mentioned here as to yani, why she would seek that khula and end the marriage in that particular way. And with that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll conclude what we wanted to mention here. Bi'idhnillah, in our next lessons, we'll go through Kitab Talaq, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So next few lessons, we'll go through Kitab Talaq. Barakallahu feekum. Wa jazakum Allahu khaira. وصلى الله وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. نعم. The amount that she's given is deficient. The amount that the woman gives to the husband is deficient. So deficient how, inshallah? How do you mean, inshallah? Oh, okay. So for example, she gives a slave, and the slave is not actually a slave, for example. Mm-hmm. So no, the khula would still be valid. However, she now owes that amount. Now, that's a dain essentially. That's a debt, but she now owes that amount. It's still valid. The khula is still valid, but she owes that amount. No, wallah.
She used to do it in a deception way, let's say, I'll give you this amount.
So she was to deceive and say?
And then say, I'll give you this amount.
She mentioned a particular amount, okay.
And then he agrees based on that amount.
And he agrees upon the amount that she the set what he mentions. Yeah.
So that still be valid.
So
she now did get it based on the agreement his agreement based on that.
Okay. So she says, I'm going to give you a khula based upon £100. He opens the envelope and it's £50. Now, in that regard, it's still the same thing. Now, because it's still upon her. That amount's upon her. Because remember, that what you've described there is similar to her saying, I'm going to give you a slave. And he's like, okay, bring the slave. And then it finds out that she didn't own the slave, she stole him. No, that's the same thing. The same yani qawaid would be attributed to that. So if she agreed on an amount, that agreement, the khula is based on the agreement. So the agreed amount is whatever she agreed to give. If now what's transpired that she's given less, that's the amount she's agreed to give still needs to be fulfilled. And so that's upon her to fulfill it. No. Does it have the same rule as talaq in terms of the khula? No, because with the khula, we know there has to be the agreement between both parties. That they both have to be, from the conditions you mentioned, that they both has to be that agreement where she says that I want the khula, and he says, okay, I'll give you the khula based on this amount, and they agree that amount, or they agree that doesn't necessarily have to be the amount, but they agree some sort of thaman. Because remember we said that there could be something where, say, I take whatever's in your pocket now. But there's a genuine agreement, then that's the case. But it's not the same as a talaq. Why? Because the talaq is given by the man. It's given by the man, and it's only given upon his kalimat. I'm alone, and not upon any formal agreement. No. Okay. So.
She has to stay in her husband's house for some period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband say, I will take you back as a wife before the iddah finishes. Is that permissible in khula?
The khula is different. So the khula.
You go home straight away.
No. So the khula is 1 month, and she goes goes back to work. Let's say, for example, her parents for that time. There's still the 1 month period where it could be reconciled. Now, however, obviously the talaq is different. The talaq is 3 months, and she stays within the home, unless it's the talaq, which is talaq ba'in, where it's the third talaq, where he cannot take her back. But it's still 3 months. But this is the main purpose of that talaq, or that iddah rather, to make sure she's not pregnant, and to make sure that to ascertain that there's no child. Because now if she's pregnant, then the iddah goes further until the end of her pregnancy.
So I thought she go home straight away.
No, and it's still 1 month. No.
In terms of the iddah of 1 month. You mentioned something. Can you propose in that 1 month?
Can you propose?
Can she get a proposal?
No. So it's the same thing as we discussed with the iddah for the talaq. Now, because we mentioned the iddah for the talaq, what can be done? Sorry? But in terms of proposals, what do we say was permissible or not permissible in terms of proposals in those 3 months? Not permissible at all. Is that what we said? Or was there more detail?
That's one. The first talaq and the second talaq.
First talaq and second talaq, there can be absolutely no proposal. The third talaq? No. The third talaq, there can be any words given, indirect words given, indicating the proposal, but no actual proposal. Now, and so this is the same thing for the khula. Now, the one, no, that there can't be any, no, because they're able to take back the wife in that regard. It's not the same as talaq.
Is it still his wife?
Yes, it's still regarded as his wife in terms of shar'an. Same as the first and second. No. So
you mentioned the mahr should be something of value and something that is halal to own and halal to trade. What if the individual asks for a cat? It's not allowed to trade.
A cat?
Yeah. You see a lot more.
No.
You see a lot?
That's what some fancy.
Everyone's agreeing. Everyone's like, I heard about this. It's okay. So I've heard of iPhone. Yeah, iPhone. I've heard about cats. Okay. So they ask for a cat. Allah. I don't know. I don't know.
Now she paid back the dowry.
No.
If the husband say, "I want you back,"
Mm-hmm.
does she have to pay the dowry again to her, or within that 1 month?
In the month.
Yeah, within 1 month, before the 1 month. She gave him back the money.
Mm-hmm. And he wants to then, and they agree. If they both agree that they want to cancel the khula, he has to give her back because it's cancelled. No, you have to give it back, inshallah. Wallah alam. The cat. Yeah, because we know we can't trade this. Benefit. Allah. I'm going to look it up, inshallah. I'll look it up. Where I'm going to start, I don't know. I'm going to look it up, inshallah. The cat. It's a good question, though. It's a very good question. No, the cat and the mahar. It's going to have me thinking throughout the week now, you know. Allahumma barik. No.
So you also made a point about if a slave is given and there you find a fault in it, if they keep it or
return
ask for return and ask for the value. Can this also be applied to other things like, for example, a car?
Yes. It can apply to anything that was mentioned of value. So let's say, for example, the woman says, "Okay, I'll give you my Fiat 500 now," and gives it. Huh? I was going to say there's no engine. No, she gives it, and there's no engine. So in this regard, in this scenario, then he's agreed upon it. He's agreed based upon the fact that it's going to be able to drive and have an engine. And when he's discovered that it's deficient and it's not been told, it's not mentioned as was given, then he can ask for the value. When we say the value, what do we mean though? When we say the value. No, okay, what it's worth. What do we mean though? In that area, it's ma'ruf, okay.
There's condition.
What condition? That's my question. What condition are we talking about? That he expected it in. No, because he's agreed to take this, let's say the car with an engine. No. So that car with the engine has a particular value, of course. It cannot now be said, okay, I'll give you the value of that car. Because the car without the engine is, of course, the value is going to be a lot less. Is that clear, Barakallahu Fi? So it's about the amount that he agreed, or the value of what he agreed for, and what was understood that commodity to be in. Now, and so this is the case with anything. So if now he's agreed something, and this is the case when it comes to a bureau as well, trading, buying and selling. If you've agreed to buy something, and then when you discover it's of different value, then you can take it or remove it. No.
Allah, Allah, Allah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح
حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
No.
So based on that hadith, what is it meant by the ending? Where she asked Allah to send her scorpion.
Oh, the ending, yeah.
No. And that word, she put the legs in there.
The word I'll have to look up specifically. But now what essentially she's saying is that she wanted to prevent herself from saying anything that she would regret from harsh words due to the jealousy and the fact that she missed the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam in this narration. So of course, when the person's at a heightened emotion and whatever else, they may say something that may be of harm and whatever else. So she wanted that she was stopped at all costs from saying anything. This was apparent within the narration, but it's Bukhari. I'll try and look up the specific sharh. Fatul Bari, of course, would be a good place to start. Let me look at the specific sharh and then we'll mention in more detail if we can, inshallah. Barakallah feek. Jazakallah khair. بارك فيكم. جزاكم خير يا اخوان. بارك الله فيكم. وصلى الله وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خير.